There are so many options, so many things that your children can learn. Do you wonder sometimes what is the most essential thing for him to learn? And then there are textbooks and videos and lectures, experimenting. Are you wondering what is the best way to present information to my child? And finally, are you looking to bring fun back into your homeschooling environment? Who isn't? You're going to enjoy today's conversation. I'm going to be talking about 3 ways discovering your children's strengths affects your homeschooling choices. As homeschoolers, we are bombarded by shoulds. We have the provincial or state education scope and sequence. We have curriculum publishers who tell us over and over, when your child is 10, he learns this. When he's 12, he learns this. And then, of course, we have our parents who share their opinions of what we should be teaching our children. We have our friends doing the same. But then we also we put it on ourselves, what you perceive, what you think you should be teaching your children. Really, the options are endless. I love the expression, don't should on yourself. We do in Ontario have the flexibility, and in many provinces and states, we have the flexibility on what we teach our children and definitely how we teach our children. We don't have people coming by and monitoring how we are homeschooling day to day, not knocking on our doors. And you definitely can't fit it all in. But how are you supposed to choose? And then how do you present information to your children? Yeah, there are lectures. There are curriculums with discussions, or you can have family discussions. There are documentaries and video learning. There's hands-on experiments. There's textbooks. So many options. And at the same time, we want learning to be fun. We want learning to be fun and engaging for our children. And then when it's fun and engaging for our children, it just makes it more fun for us. My name is Diana Rolston, and I want to welcome you to Spark Homeschool Parent. Spark Homeschool Parent is an encouraging, non-judgmental community where we can share our questions, our doubts, and we can share our fears about homeschooling. You're going to enjoy today's conversation if you are wondering what you teach your children. You're going to enjoy it if you're questioning how you choose the method to present information to each one of your children. And of course, we're going to talk about that fun factor. This is Spark Homeschool Parent, and I want to thank you for joining. As you're signing into the live, send me a quick note. Our group is growing, and we started just local, but now I know some of our members are throughout Canada, and now we have some new members joining in throughout the United States also. So send a quick note as you're coming on so I can see where you're from. It's always exciting to hear that. And also, as I'm talking, if a question pops into your mind, put that in the chat, and I'll try to keep an eye on that and address those questions as they come up. And yeah, just any comments throughout our time together, I'd love to hear from you. I'm Diana Rolston. Today's conversation is 3 ways discovering your child's strengths affects your homeschooling choices. Hey Sherry, it's great to see you coming from the metropolis of Stittsville. Thanks for joining me. As we're beginning our homeschooling with our young children, you'll hear from many veterans that you don't have to spend a lot of time formally educating them. I interviewed Robin Gilman a few weeks ago, and in her family, she focused on reading, writing, arithmetic. Another interview I did with Christine Pollux In her family, it was the 3 M's. It was music, math, and movement. If you want to take a look at those Facebook Lives that I've done over the last few months, go into Spark Educational Therapy, and in the videos there, they're all stored there. But many homeschoolers who will tell you that when our children are young, 20 minutes is all that our children can sit for. But you can fit a lot into that time. As they get a little bit older, that'll grow to an hour, and then the whole morning. For our high school students who maybe have a little bit heavier load, that may be a little bit longer than just the morning. But really, our homeschool day, the education part of our day, is not filling up the full 8 hours or whatever it is of our whole day. Even Tara Hills, that I interviewed recently, who has many children homeschooling, she also, with her children, is just homeschooling in the morning. So then that brings me to what we're going to do in the afternoons, or some thoughts about what I have learned and experienced that I really think will be beneficial. Those afternoons, or those times when you're not formally doing the education, these are wonderful times to explore your children's strengths. Let me explain that a little bit. So you're going to have hours and hours of time. You may provide free time. Your children can have the option of reading, and you're providing many opportunities and options for them to read. What are they going to choose? They may choose magazines or trade magazines or fiction, nonfiction, whatever it is, but provide a lot of opportunities. In the city that I'm in, we have a lot of museums. Great opportunities for afternoons. And then when you come back, or the next day, you may want to all get together and watch a documentary, maybe related to what you had learned at the museum. That's your choice, or you can leave that open to the choice of your children. How fun is it to spend hours baking with your kids? I always enjoyed those afternoons. Or painting. My children also really enjoyed being outdoors. So for a few years, I would always have $5 gift cards for the local Subway or the pizza place or other options in town. And my children were old enough at that time to bike by themselves into town and grab a pizza, or meet a friend there and have a pizza. As homeschoolers too, we have such opportunities to have adventures with our kids, where we can do things together and create memories together. As things open up now and people are getting together a little bit more readily, there are more co-ops available. Maybe you want to get together with some friends and learn a topic together, or just hang out together. Another thing that my children really enjoyed, where we are, we have a little bit of space in the backyard, and there was some new home construction going on. So we would collect scraps of wood, and I'd set my boys up with hammer and nail, and my husband taught them how to use their hammer properly. And they spent hours and hours building a tree house where they could play, but also they would bring their schoolwork up there in the summertime, or building forts in the woods behind our house. It's winter now, and we're in the north, so maybe your children want to be building snow forts. One year we were learning about the Canadian natives, and we spent days building a teepee in the backyard, which was great fun. So a lot of those ideas are maybe not scheduled, but planned things that you're going to do. But I also really encourage homeschoolers to do is to provide unstructured, unscheduled free time for your children. Time where they can think, create, daydream, whatever it is they want to do. When you're first incorporating this into your day, you may want to give some suggestions, get them going, just so that they know what's available for them. When I was talking with Kathleen Braden, she said, and which I fully agree with, is she loved hearing from her children, "I'm bored," or just being able to provide that time when your children can be bored. What are they going to do? How are they going to fill that time when they have nothing planned for them? Again, you may provide some suggestions and the resources that they need to do what it is that they choose to do. Knowing, as their parent, knowing what you suspect they would want to do, just making sure that you have the whatever it is that they need to do that. And then casually checking in to see how they're doing, casually asking questions, and showing great interest in whatever it is that they decide to do. Now, I know a lot of our children, given the opportunity to have free time, are going to go straight to their devices, and many will be playing video games. I just want to emphasize that this is not a time when that is available for our children. It's not something I'm going to get into a lot now. I'm not going to discuss it, but it is absolutely worthy of a discussion in the future. But I'll just leave it to say that we want to provide unstructured, unplanned, unscheduled time for our children. Excuse me. This is a wonderful opportunity for us to watch them, to engage in questioning. We're going to get a huge sense of what our children's strengths are and what their interests are by what they do in their free time. Now, this is going to take years and years. This is not something that you give them, a week or a month of free time and you got it all figured out. What is it that your children are choosing to do? I want to share with you a quote by Ken Robinson. This is from his book, The Element, a great book. He says, when you're in your element, your sense of time changes. If you're doing something that you love, an hour can feel like 5 minutes. And if you're doing something that you do not, 5 minutes can feel like an hour. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. So what is it that your child is doing for hours? And then when you question him, he just says, but I just started, or I've only been doing it for 5 minutes. Those are the clues that you're looking for to help discover your child's strengths and to help them discover their strengths. Now, as your children get a little bit older and you're adding more school time to your children's day, and you want to, add some more learning opportunities, like more formal learning opportunities, I just want to say, don't judge or discriminate against what your child is choosing to do in that free time. Don't think of it as unimportant, because their interests will grow. One of my boys, he always, for a long time, chose to do Lego in that free time that he had. When you look at that, you could think, why? What's he learning from that? Where is that going to take him? But really, many times we don't know where that's going to grow. But I fully encouraged and showed great excitement and interest in whatever it was that he was creating. That interest grew into Lego Technic, which is a little bit more involved, and then grew again into Lego Robotics. And there he started learning and teaching himself about programming. And then that grew into electronics and electricity. So as I got a better sense of that child, and as he grew older, he wanted to add more math into his learning time. Just imagine that. As a parent, your child wants to learn more math, and he wanted to learn specifically the math related to electricity and electronics. And of course, he wanted to learn about electricity and wanted to experiment with his electronics. And he would do that through movies, through trade magazines, and through textbooks. My son, who really enjoyed being outdoors, he wanted to learn more about natural sciences. As he was camping more, he asked to, and was gravitating towards naturally, to learn more about outdoor survival in the wilderness. As he got later in his studying and he was in high school, he asked to learn higher level physics. My son, who enjoyed small engines and taking apart small engines in that free time that he had, maintaining and doing whatever he was doing with those small engines. And also in his free time, he would be reading popular science magazines, popular mechanics magazines. The chainsaw manuals were so interesting for him. And being the learner that he is, he learns so much by just looking at the pictures and reading the short descriptions. And so my job at that stage, as his questions grew, I became the resource person to help him answer those questions by providing him with books and movies and whatever it was to help him answer as he wanted to learn more and more. That son made that small engine repair, small engine maintenance into a small business. So then he was asking, because he saw the need for him to learn more about business. So we introduced a course in economics and accounting and marketing. So you can see, when we know our children's strengths, it determines what they learn. And that's the first point that I wanted to make. And then children learn best when teaching methods and school activities match their strengths and learning styles. I want to show you this next video, or not video, slide. This is just one theory of learning styles. This is VARK, visual, auditory, reading and writing learners, and the kinesthetic learners. And you can see from the diagrams a little bit about those, but let me explain those a little bit more. There is a questionnaire about these learning styles. Again, it's VARK, V-A-R-K. And they go through different scenarios and ask which way you would prefer to learn. After going, it's just a short survey. Whether you want to do it like sit down with your child and ask them these questions and go through all the answers, or if you just want to observe, and just as the informed parent that you are, you will know which option would be best for your child. You'll get a better sense of their learning style. If your child is a visual learner, visual learners learn best by seeing. So graphic displays such as charts, pictures, diagrams, illustrations, videos, movies, all of those are helpful learning tools for your visual learners. So when you're choosing curriculum or you're choosing a method to present information to your children who are visual learners, you want to provide a lot of pictures and diagrams and charts. That's like my son who, with the small engines, he just needed to look at the pictures of how an engine is put together and he would be able to figure it out. And then the next learning style is oral or auditory. Auditory learners learn best by hearing information. So if you have a child who is an auditory learner, they will get a great deal out of lectures, and they're good at remembering things that they're told. So you may want to present information through music. When our children are young, there are so many, the alphabet, days of the week, so many ways that we can teach our children, or our children can learn through music. But then there's also, as they get a little bit older, there's songs about different parts of grammar, provinces and countries. There are songs about geography, so keep that in mind. There's also the opportunity for discussion. Or auditory learners would love to just discuss topics. Or you may want to choose online classes, but keeping in mind that your child would want a class where a teacher is actually teaching and is available for discussion. But these children also enjoy audiobooks and podcasts, and there are so many opportunities for learning through audiobooks and podcasts. Those children of ours who fall into the reading and writing learners, they prefer to take in information that is displayed as words and texts. They might find it helpful to write down information in order to help them learn and remember it. These are the students that would benefit from making lists, reading textbooks, and taking notes. And we all know that there are a lot of curriculum using textbooks. But then there's also our kinesthetic learners, or our tactile learners. They learn best by touching and doing things. Hands-on experiments are important for our kinesthetic learners. So movement. An example for this is when you're teaching your child math, put a number line on the floor, the length of your hall. When you move forward, you're adding. When you move back, you're subtracting. And you may find that that's a great way for that child to learn. These are also the children that their brain gets engaged when they're moving. Sometimes a little bit annoying for us parents that really learn by sitting and reading, and then we have this child who's bouncing around. But really, they truly are learning best by moving. Those are our kinesthetic learners. These children also learn through experiments, not by reading the experiment, but by that hands-on activity. So any opportunity you have to present something in a hands-on way, there are lots of math curriculums with manipulatives. Use those. That is best for those children. As I said, the VARC theory of learning styles is just one that's available. There's also Garner's theory of multiple intelligences. Maybe that's one that you've heard of. He breaks it down into 8 different categories. You'll notice some overlap. There's musical, kinesthetic again, logical, mathematical, interpersonal, intrapersonal, linguistic, spatial, and naturalist. But what I want to say about this is that when we learn our child's strengths, their interests, their learning styles, it helps us determine how to present material for learning. And that's the second point. The third that I wanted to say is that fun factor. Imagine you are teaching history and teaching history from a textbook. Now that you have learned a little bit more about strengths, about learning styles and interests, imagine that that child that has no interest in history, but learns kinesthetically. He is not at all going to be engaged in your presentation of history through a textbook. But how can you present that in a way that that child will find it interesting? First of all, if you choose to teach history, then if you have a kinesthetic, if you have a, if you have a kinesthetic learner, you want to bring them to a museum, a children's museum, where they can like explore and get down. We have a great history war museum here where our children can get down into a trench and try on the uniforms of the soldiers. And that would be a fantastic way for our kinesthetic learners to learn history rather than sitting down with a textbook. I have one son who's really interested in guns, and for him, that is how he learned history, because he did a history project, at a history fair, about the evolution of guns in the Canadian military. And that was a fantastic way for him to learn history. So those are the three ways that discovering your children's strengths affects your homeschooling choices. I should just mention more about that fun factor. When our children are fully engaged and interested in learning, we want them to be like looking forward to the next day. What else can I learn? And when our children are doing that and more engaged in their learning, that just makes it so much more fun for us also. So learning your children's strengths will help you determine what they're going to be learning, what you're going to be teaching them. It's going to be helping you make the choice of how you're presenting that material to your children. And then, of course, it's going to just create that fun factor in your homeschool environment. This is Spark Homeschool Parent. I really hope that's been helpful for you. I am committed to equipping you with the skills and the mindset to navigate through this ever-changing homeschool journey. These Facebook Lives, these weekly Facebook Lives, are just part of the conversation. If you want to be continuing this conversation, then please join the Spark Homeschool Parent Facebook group, where I post things a few times a week. And I am here every Friday, 1 p.m., whether you're here live, which is awesome, or you watch the recording. And remember, until next week, as homeschoolers, we can help our children find the spark that ignites their learning.